I gotta admit, I'm pretty clueless because I don't usually read the papers or follow the news. So, it took me a while to find out that Steve Jobs was the one who started Apple. Anyway, there was this special show on Shanghai TV right after Jobs passed away. They were sharing stories from his life, and I caught a scene where he gave a speech at Stanford University in the US. They showed the footage with English subtitles, translating what he was saying. And suddenly, I came across this sentence in English: "Stay foolish, stay hungry." Ever heard of it? For those of you who've studied English, you know what foolish means, right? It means being kinda dumb or ignorant. And hungry means having a strong appetite or desire. Then he used the word stay, spelled stay. Since both foolish and hungry are describing words, when you put stay before them, it doesn't act as a regular verb anymore. It's more like a linking verb that connects things. So, you can say it roughly means keep or maintain. When I saw that, my first thought was, hey, Jobs must have studied Buddhism. Later, someone confirmed that he actually did. Why did I react that way? Because the meaning of that sentence coincidentally lines up with what Huineng had said. Who are these foolish and hungry folks? They're the lowest of the low, the ones who are both clueless and hungry, but guess what? They actually have the most wisdom. Even if you end up as a big shot in the Politburo in Beijing, remember that deep down you're still one of the lowest of the low. If you forget that, your wisdom might just slip away. It's a lesson our younger generation should learn early on. It's a prime example of wisdom. We shouldn't think our own egos are the be-all and end-all. We need to let go of that completely. It's what they call realization, a part of being enlightened, a part of realization. Imagine I'm giving a lecture today, and let's say things are going really well. At the end, everyone claps, and a gorgeous girl even gives me flowers. I feel pretty proud in that moment. But then, out of the blue, a Zen master walks in and asks me, who's the one giving the lecture? If I, Wang Defeng, were to say, it's me, Wang Defeng, then I'm in trouble. This Zen master wants to give me a light bulb moment in the Zen way, you know? How can I claim it's me giving the lecture when you think seriously about it? Now, here's a question for you. Did I create the language I'm using to lecture, Chinese? Nah, I didn't. The stuff I talk about might touch on philosophy, maybe a mix of Western and Chinese ideas, but did I come up with all those philosophical concepts? Nope. You guys listen to my lecture and enjoy it, getting interested in what I'm saying. Did I make you interested? No way. Basically, everything that made my lecture successful today didn't originate from me. So, I can't just say, hey, it's me, Wang Defeng, giving the lecture. How could I? Instead, I have to answer, it's my Buddha nature giving the lecture. This example shows what wisdom is. It's not just knowledge. When you study philosophy, you're diving into the quest for wisdom. So, let's talk about how this pursuit of wisdom is connected to the development and advancement of science. In a nutshell, it's all about the relationship between philosophy and science. Some folks claim that philosophy is the ultimate science, the science of all sciences. It might sound like they're giving philosophy a big boost, but honestly, it feels like they're downplaying it to me. Why? Should philosophy depend on different sciences to make progress and achievements, and then just summarize and generalize them? Philosophy doesn't demand that. Don't assume that philosophy is the science that summarizes and generalizes all social and natural knowledge, the pinnacle of knowledge. It's not like that. So, what's the deal with philosophy and science? Philosophy actually sets the stage and provides the foundation for scientific research. What does science actually do? Well, in the realm of typical Western natural sciences, like Galileo's physics, the aim is to effectively capture the natural state using mathematical formulas. In physics, for instance, they create a theoretical framework that describes the natural state using reason and math, forming a system of propositions. Basically, every sensory experience needs to be eventually turned into a statement, and all these statements come together to form a system. So, in a nutshell, science takes the world, whether it's the natural world or social events, and fits them into these organized systems. A proposition system is basically a language system. But what's really hidden within language? What's kept secret? And how do we, as humans, manage to organize our perception of the outside world and sensory experiences into meaningful statements using language? The laws of nature, the principles of physics, are always communicated through language. But hey, these language-based laws aren't magically written in the sky, right? It's us humans who come up with them. So, this proposition system, which is essentially a language system, contains a wealth of information. Language conceals the hidden judgments we make about the world. Without these underlying judgments, how could we even have a language-based system for scientific propositions? What does philosophy actually do? It aims to uncover those sneaky judgments we make about the world and then goes deep into exploring their nature, origins, and how trustworthy they are. I get it, it might sound a bit abstract when put like that, right? So, let's break it down with a simple example. Remember when we were kids and saw water turning into ice during winter? We'd say something like, "Water freezes into ice." Think about that experience for a moment. We summed it up in just one sentence, didn't we? Water freezes into ice. Now, let's ask ourselves, where does this experience come from? Many would say, from what we observed. And that's correct. First, we observe liquid water, and then we see solid ice. No doubt about it. But no matter how much we observe and how our senses perceive the transition from liquid to solid, it still doesn't explain how we can confidently say, water freezes into ice. Take a moment to ponder that. Doesn't it make you wonder? When our senses pick up signals from the world around us, we create different ways of perceiving things. Like, we have one way of perceiving liquid water and another way for solid ice. But why do we say these different perceptions represent the same thing? Who told us that? In the phrase, water freezes into ice, it's kind of assumed that the water and the ice are actually the same thing, right? Who gave us that idea? Did our senses give us that info? You might argue that our senses did give us that info. Why? Well, imagine we have a bowl of water in the yard during winter, and we never let anyone pour out the water or put in any ice. If we stay by the bowl the whole time, watching it change from water to ice, our senses would still be the ones telling us about it. But is this reasoning, this explanation, correct? Or is there something wrong with it? Well, this explanation still has a flaw. Why don't you consider the possibility that the water we had before completely disappeared? It went from being there to being totally gone. And the ice that came after magically appeared out of nowhere. Why don't you think about it that way? Who's stopping you from thinking like that? It's not our senses, right? It's a certain belief in your mind that's holding you back. What belief is that? It's the belief that nothing can come from nothing, and nothing can completely vanish from existence. Behind the changes we perceive with our senses, there's something unchanging. You have this belief in the existence of that unchanging thing, which we call substance. In Western philosophy, especially in Kant's philosophy, what do they think this substance is? It's like a mental category, a way of thinking about things. And these ways of thinking don't come from what we sense, right? Our senses can't just make us believe in abstract ideas. They only give us different ways of perceiving stuff. It's actually our own minds, our cognition, that connects those different ways and treats them as the same thing. We're the ones who decide that. So, even though scientists might talk about the law of conservation of matter like they discovered it, it's actually something we all feel deep down. We don't buy into things magically disappearing into thin air or popping out of nowhere. It's not like our senses tell us that. So where does this belief come from? It comes from the way we think about things, the stuff in our heads. According to Kant, here's the deal: we can think of every experience as a statement, right? Every experience comes from two places. First, there's the stuff that hits our senses, the things we see, hear, and feel. That's one source, the sensory material. But that's not the whole story. To make sense of different perceptions and create a cohesive experience, there's another source. Our minds have a way of understanding how these sensory bits relate to each other. We all have this in common, and it's called the categories of thought. So, an experience is made up of sensory material combined with the way we think about it. So, what's the point I'm trying to make with this example? Well, Western philosophy wants to do one thing: dig deep and uncover the foundation that makes our experiences possible, even if it goes beyond what we directly perceive. Take away that foundation, and experiences become meaningless. This applies to both natural experiences and social experiences. Let's say you're strolling down Shanghai's Nanjing Road on a specific date and time, and you witness a brawl between two groups of people. Now, as a journalist, your job is to report it as a social fact, right? How would you go about it? You could describe it as a gang turf war, a clash between criminals and the cops, or even as a popular uprising. You have to capture the social reality, don't you? But here's the catch: the distinction between a gang war, criminal conflict, or popular uprising isn't something you can directly see with your senses. It's not something visible to your eyes. If you were to report honestly based on what you actually saw, you'd write something like, on a certain date, at a specific time, on Nanjing Road, two groups of highly evolved primates were throwing punches. When it comes to figuring out social facts, we need more than just our usual senses, just like when we learn about the natural world. Our minds have to apply additional rules to make sense of the sensory information, creating a whole social dimension of existence. But here's the kicker: these rules don't come from our senses. Philosophy aims to uncover the principles that give meaning to social facts and experiences. Without this understanding, social sciences can't get off the ground. And hey, it doesn't stop there. If we don't uncover the deep-seated ways we understand things, the fundamental cognitive structures that shape how we see the natural world, even natural sciences won't hold up. Sure, natural sciences rely on empirical knowledge, but let me tell you a secret: all empirical sciences have a foundation that goes beyond pure observation. That's the lesson we learn from Kantian philosophy.